Hello, playwrights.
Hi.
Hey, Deb.
How are you?
Pretty well.
Thanks for joining us on this very first session of our Frozen Women Flowing Thoughts playwrights. I'm so glad to have the three of you here. I'm just going to let you go ahead and introduce yourselves. If you want to say anything extra, that's fine. If not, that's fine. So we'll start with Doc, then Helen, then Christine. Go ahead and jump in and tell us about yourselves.
Well, I'm Doc, Andersen-Bloomfield. I've worked in the theater all my life. Even I started about 11. I taught theater for 40 years.
Wow.
Mostly plays about men, by men, and for men, and now I'm making up for it.
Right. My name is Helen Cheng Mao. I have worked in theater in terms of I performed as an actor, and I've also, written short plays. And I used to teach high school English. So I did teach some plays, but I wasn't teaching theater. I was teaching more like literature and writing.
Gotcha.
Christine Benvenuto. I've been a writer for many years in different genre, but relatively new to playwriting, and very, very happy that I finally took this leap.
Yay. Well, congratulations all of you, and welcome to all of you. Our first question is, and feel free to jump in any order, what called you to become a playwright?
I don't think I was called. I think I just was. I think I made up stories when I was little all the time, constantly, and I think that's just me.
You say when you were little, Doc, like how small, how young?
I think I can remember sitting in bed making up stories with bobby pins. So I think I must have been about 4 or 5. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do it all the time. I do it now without thinking. I make it. In fact, my daughter sometimes has a conversation with me and she stops and says, "You're making up a play right now and not listening." Sorry, it's an addiction.
That's funny. Well, I actually want to say that literally a call was actually September 2020, back when everybody was at home. It was for a local theater company. They wanted a 10-minute play on just living during the pandemic. And I, wrote a short play on my experiences as a mask maker and all the different people that I met. But similar to Doc, all my life I've made up stories. But the form that I used was more, was prose writing. And then I did more about, I'm looking at my notes for the side, that's why. I did moved into sort of, essays, like academic essays, analysis of literature, but then essays, and also nonfiction articles. But what I always found fun was writing skits. I'd write skits as a student, I wrote skits as a teacher, I wrote skits just even more recently. And but I never thought of actually writing plays. Isn't that funny? I'd write in other forms and I think of stories, but I actually never wrote long play scripts. But I started, doing more formally, I guess, in 2020. So
gotcha.
I was writing and wanting to try to write a play for so long, and actually it was high school that I started acting and thought, no, I want to direct. And then as soon as I started directing, realized, no, I want to write the words. And then literally decades passed. And one day, I'd published nonfiction books and lots of short stories, a lot of different kinds of nonfiction and fiction. But one day I just saw this call for a 10-minute play, for 10-minute play submissions for the Boston Theater Marathon. This was just before COVID. And I thought, now or never. And I dove in, and because the play was accepted, I got the experience of seeing how a director works and hearing the words come out of these young actors' mouths. And it was just so electrifying for me that I was hooked. And that's most of what I've worked on since. It has been plays.
So how would you say you've been working on plays?
About 4 years, I would say.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So we sort of answered the question, did you begin with a different medium? I think, Doc, you dove straight into theater, but Helen and Christine, you sort of were in other literary forms, but still inside other forms, right? Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about your monologue now. Some of you submitted several monologues, and I know I just chose the one. So let's just talk about that one. And in the case of Doc, I've produced your full play here, including having to get a car in through a 34-inch door. We're going to talk about Doc. It's legendary. Let's talk about
Didn't you sleep the night because half the car was on the sidewalk or something? You slept in the front window to make sure.
Oh, nobody would get in the theater then.
Yeah, I called Rob in charge of public works. Rob, there's a car on the sidewalk. Don't touch it.
Oh wow, that's
Much time what have you done? Just give me 20. I don't even know why I said 24 hours. I just made it up. Just in 24 hours, figure it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, talk about your play, Doc.
Right, about my play. Well, I grew up in the South, and every other year I write a full length of a Southern play. I write plays to the Bechdel test. I'm sure you all know that. It's two women in the lead roles, two women talking to each other, and not about a man. I write realistic drama. It's got to have a personal story there, but it has a political setting. And of course, Where Mama Left Off is about the border. And Tinda May has come home to bury Mama and take over the farm, but she has a white supremacist brother on and it's actually, there's humor in it, believe it or not. And it was pertinent, especially when I wrote it when Trump, I wrote it thinking about how Trump was separating children from their parents and sending them every which way without any identification. And that was the short. You got the short, the monologue.
Okay.
But I've since written a full length, and it's supposed to be produced in Florida. I actually found a left-wing theater in Florida. And it's supposed to be produced at the end of this year in Orlando.
You always find a way to work a comedy in. I think to have a middle-aged woman climb into a treehouse, it's just funny. The subject is intense, but it's lovely. It's like, oh yeah, to stage that full out would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Okay. Helen, do you want to tell us about yours?
Sure. My monologue takes place in the waiting room of an OBGYN office. And there's a woman who comes in. The play, basically the play opens with there's a woman who's in her 30s and she's got two little kids. And she's like talking on the phone to the babysitter. And another woman comes in who's about 55. And the monologue is her monologue. The woman's name is Nancy. And she's, the play discusses this, but this is what Nancy encapsulates is, among other things, in terms of dealing with like childbearing, birth control, but also with Nancy, it's a case of her saying to the other person, I can't stand these paper screenings for depression. I don't know if other people have experienced it, but they're 9-question screenings for depression that pretty much everybody takes when they go to see an OBGYN. Men may take it, I guess, with a regular practitioner, but I'm not sure. But Nancy's very frustrated because it's multiple choice, and the questions are like, you've lost interest in doing things the last several days, every day, or only a few days, or not at all. Well, there's a bunch of questions like that we all may be familiar with in terms of like, have you felt low in energy? Have you felt sad? Well, Nancy wants to point out, she says, obviously it depends on your stage of life, what is going on in your life. And what's going on in my life is that, my mother just passed away. My father is living with me, and I have to take care of the older parent who has dementia, who's widowed, as well as a cranky teenager. And I'm also going through perimenopause. She said, so, anybody under those conditions, like, if I fill this out truthfully, I would be seen as depressed. When she was speaking to the younger woman, she said, you're a mother who has 3 kids under the age of 3, but with an unsupportive husband, and you're always stressed about things, and you're worried you're pregnant with a 4th child, and you don't want the 4th child. So again, if you took this right now, of course you're depressed because of, what conditions you are. So it's just basically the frustration of taking that multiple choice depression screening. And I touched on my experience for both the young woman and the older woman. The monologue, that is, the idea.
I have so many friends that are diagnosed and kids that are diagnosed. And when I read your play, I thought it's a really simple premise, but it really packs a point, that we're human beings, like we're full human beings. We're not these automated things that you check off a list and move on. And so I thought it was lovely. Yeah.
Thank you. I had one really quick side note. I was talking to an OBGYN friend of mine, and I was telling her about this question. I actually said this to my own OBGYN, a male, to both of them. I said, what is the sense of this? Because as we just discussed, like, the answers could be, depends on what's going on in your life. And they said, well, honestly, it could be, we use it just as a tool among many other things, as a possible sign. It's not like this is the only thing. And then my male gynecologist said to me, he said, and the thing is, you're answering truthfully. Because a lot of people, if they're depressed, or they don't want to necessarily answer truthfully out of embarrassment or out of not wanting to be, all of a sudden told they have to go to therapy. He said, so that's another issue. Is how truthful a patient's going to be on these forms.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, Christine, tell us about Mr. What's his face? Just tell me.
Remember Me, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Question mark is my monologue. I got interested a little bit ago. I haven't done used all the ideas I came up with, but about doing a series of short plays or monologues to do with young women, women at the age of 18, and experiences, and some completely fictional and some not. And in this one, this is about a young woman who on her 18th birthday is called up by a teacher from the high school she just graduated from, and basically essentially invited to have sex, and goes on to discover that he is doing this with her graduating class. And that might sound like a crazy premise, but this is not a fictional.
I knew it wasn't. I could tell.
Yeah. It's not, every detail in it is not, some of it's fiction, but primarily it's not fiction.
Is it with more than one female he's inviting?
Not at a time, separate nights, but.
Oh, I see.
But yes.
Wow.
Well, he'd lose his job fast, wouldn't he?
Actually, now he probably would.
Yeah.
I would hope. But this wasn't now, and and now he became the principal of that.
Oh, jeez.
Even though it was quite well known.
Yeah.
What was, it wasn't, obviously wasn't in the newspaper, but it wasn't like a really hidden secret because the girls knew.
Did he teach PE?
No, American history, actually. Yeah. Anyway, it is told with with humor. I mean, I took a humorous attitude, but I just have to say I love stealing from life. I really do. And someday people are going to hate me for this, but in this case, I was stealing from my own life. So okay.
Wow.
They say every writer's writing their own story, right? One way or another. So it really resonated with me. I thought, this is truth. It just resonated as truth. And I thought, how ballsy, for lack of a better word, but like as you say, everybody knew. But we come from a time where, so what if you know, you don't say it, you don't confront it, as compared to now, everything is very much upfront. So I thought it was I thought it just made a really essential point that the times have changed, I hope, as Doc says, you know, but we all live with things like this. Like my 40-year class reunion is coming up, and I'm like, oh, my rapist won't be there. Like, you know, like, and it's not like, oh, it's just like, thank God he was annoying. And it's not, I don't know, it's a different referencing. And I feel like it's so well. I feel like, and you called him out, and it was glorious.
That's a play, Deb, right there. He does show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you took him to task in front of everybody.
Or if he shows up with his family. Like if he shows up and he brings his wife.
Yes.
And then you find out, like, what are you doing? What is his occupation now? How many kids does he have? Does he have a daughter? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's my notebook? Let's get this down.
That's really interesting. That is an interesting.
I love that you all jumped on to write my play. This is wonderful. So let's talk about process.
We expect credits. Yeah.
Let's talk about your process. Doc, you say you started with hairpins when you were young. What is your process when you write a play? And I know as artists, it may not be this regimented thing, or maybe it is. But for me, I like candles. I was talking to Fen, and she was like, it's a sacred time. You have to have one good cup of coffee. I said, that's true. Like, and so what is for you process or any kind of ritual? How do you write? What do you do?
I read the newspaper and with a bucket of coffee. And by the time I've read it, I'm angry about all sorts of things. But I also, I'm hooked on Rachel Maddow and quite a few others. Harry Melber. They're all great. Yeah. Even though I live in England, I watch them all, even in the middle of the night when I can't sleep. But I don't know. It just comes to me all the time. I have files filled with ideas for monologues, short plays, full length. I've collected them over the years. Yeah.
You can go back and revisit an idea you had, say 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And run with it.
You know, God Don't Like Ugly.
Yes.
It started. That was the play you directed so beautifully. It started as a short, and I didn't think it was that good. Put it away, and 2 years later, I took it out and said, "Oh my God, I really love this." And then I wrote the full length. So you got to keep your stuff, even when you think it's not that good. But like I say, I just write all the time. I don't need candles. I can write in the loo. I'm sorry, I live in England. I can write on the toilet.
I feel good about it.
Pads of paper everywhere, so it doesn't matter.
Say as a producer, Carolyn Gage, when I produced and directed Ugly Ducklings, that play was 18 years old. And no one would produce it because it was about homophobia at a girls' summer camp, and no one would touch it. And then when we did produce it, the script was older than over half the people in the cast. And then for Pat Lynn, too, we did Zelda at the Oasis, and that was a 13-year-old script. She had been commissioned to write it, but she focused on Zelda Fitzgerald instead of F. Scott. So they said, yeah, not so much. And luckily, it was the deadline to submit, and she already had it stamped in a drawer and dropped it. And I was like, oh my God. And then it went on to run off Broadway after that. So I think it makes such a point, Doc, that, you know, this work is alive. Like, even if no one, you know, it's waiting. Yeah. Good for you. That's incredible. That's incredible organization, too, to keep it all. Sometimes keep a pad of paper next to the toilet. Yeah. Okay. You know, like take the app in the file or know where to find it. Like it's not written sideways on an envelope somewhere.
Well, I do that too. And menus. I'm really good at. My husband just shakes his head. Every restaurant, I'm sitting there.
Funny. How about you, Helen?
I love a prompt. See, that's actually how I end up writing a lot of things, is to a prompt. Because there's actually two things: a prompt and a deadline, basically. Because then the deadline will actually get me like, okay, get started writing it and go through different drafts. But the reason why I really enjoy a prompt is because, yes, I can think of so many different ideas. And I write them down. Like, I have like a list of like ideas. So, I mean, it's not that well organized, Doc, but probably like your filing system sounds like, but I do keep ideas. Like I had this one when I went to the dentist this morning, and I've always thought about, what if like you solved a problem that started to put a lot of people out of business. For example, mine was like healthcare. Like, what if everybody ends up, nobody gets sick? They still age, so it's not like everybody lives forever and then there's too many people in the world, but that would put a lot of businesses, you know, pharmaceutical and healthcare businesses aside. I did that from the dentist this morning, the periodontist with the gum growing back. That would put periodontists out of business. Now, the reason I wrote it down when I got out of the office, but I don't have like a prompt right now. But what's interesting is if I have a prompt, then sometimes I can look at the ideas that I've had and see what can I use, that like a marriage of the two of them, the prompt and the idea, like that helps steer it different ways, or it inspires a different way to develop an idea. So that's how I do it. And I do need to be more disciplined about actually writing, though, because I work, you know, part-time, and I used to take care of an elderly parent and my kids. Now everybody's out of the house. Like, I'm newly empty nester, but I still have to be more disciplined about making myself sit down and write.
Yeah.
Do that.
Due dates are great.
That's why I said deadlines. Yeah.
I've got a deadline on Sunday in 2 days from now, and I haven't written it yet, so I'm going to get there.
You be up all night.
Yeah, a new scene in my new play. Yeah.
How about you? What's your process?
Oh, I actually have a deadline of Sunday as well, and a prompt, and that's not the way I normally write.
Oh,
I was a little bit deer in the headlights for about a day, and then I realized an idea I'd long ago had, but never wrote a single word of, would work for this this prompt. So I did end up finding it really, really conducive, and I wrote more quickly than I might have. As I had this. And usually, I mean, coffee is oxygen. I wouldn't attempt anything without that. I don't have anything else, I don't think. I always aim to write in the morning, but I don't always. I'm also trying to be more disciplined. I feel like I was more disciplined in the past, and I definitely can get that back, as I saw in the last few weeks with this looming deadline. Yeah, I think stopping looking at emails is a good one. They're always popping up, the texts, the emails, when I particularly need the time. And trying to think, is there anything else? I love keeping lists of ideas. Yeah, I find that really conducive because it sort of shows that I have thought of something, even if what I've thought of in the past isn't going to work right now. It can be just sort of grease things to read those lists of ideas that are not yet written.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, one thing that's worked for me is for the last 20 years, I've been in England for 37. I keep telling everyone I'm working on the accent, but for the last 20 years, I have worked with Oxford playwrights, and we produce 2 to 3 productions a year of shorts or short plays, 10 to 15 minutes. And what we do, because there's quite a few of us, we do it on a theme usually. Oh dear, my daughter's calling. Sorry. Turn her off. Forgive me. Yeah.
Good.
Well, come on. There we go. So anyway, in Oxford Playwrights, we can have a theme. We did that for quite a few years. And what we do is we send them off to a professional playwright who doesn't know any of us. And he's lovely. If I ever meet him, I'm buying him a bottle of champagne because he always chooses mine. But he chooses like 8 plays, shorts that are going to be produced on that theme. And then we have that 2 or 3 times a year until the epidemic hit us. And that's where I get my shorts to write my full lengths. And it's so helpful, folks. And it's helpful. You meet up once a month, you share a scene or 2 or every other week, and you become best friends along the way. And you know their work, and it's really amazing. So that has been one technique that's really been excellent for me.
Good.
I hope I didn't jump in on yours, Christine. Sorry there. Yeah.
No, I'm actually fascinated by the idea that you have been able to take 10-minute plays and turn them into full length.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
I have not tried. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It worked.
I could see taking 10 minutes that I have and turning them into like 1 acts, but I can't imagine doing full length, the jump.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think you have to be brave. When I finally did, I think God Don't Like Ugly was about my 4th or 5th full length that I'd ever written. And I didn't have the confidence. I think I got a lot of confidence out of Venus and that show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stop.
Really?
I as a producer crave a 2-act. I mean, I don't have a space anymore, but I mean, I love 1 act too, but there's something traditional and lovely about this. Like, this is going to be the whole evening. You're going to be in one world and you're all going to take a break together. And Amy, I didn't introduce you to Amy.
Sorry.
Hi, Amy.
Introduce yourself. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm designer, actor, and Venus board member, and
we have a band.
Yeah. Oh, in a band. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Step in at the last minute, actress, as I recollect. Amy, you need to move over closer to Deb so we can see you. Yeah, there we go.
I don't know what. Yeah, so I think as the designer too, I think don't we more into the world when there's 2 acts? Like, I mean, you do 1 acts also, but it's almost it almost was becoming difficult to find a contemporary 2-act. So it's so
I can send you several.
No, I don't have a
yeah, it's on my list. Here we go.
So let's talk about why you chose the subject matter that you chose. Talk about what it is. Why did you choose what you chose for your monologues? Anybody jump in?
Actually, I'll start off with what I chose was, again, prompt related for like another competition. The prompt was what happens in a waiting room. So I did write a short play again about what's called Waiting for the Guy, which is what happens in an OBGYN waiting room. But the monologue itself, the reason why I made me really want to write it is what I had said is like the frustration that I've told my friend and my own OBGYN about, how I feel like the depression screening, it's like it's multiple choice and it doesn't allow nuance. And I really did want to deal with the issues, though, both the main character, Nancy, who's talking about what she's dealing with going through perimenopause and then being in the sandwich generation, as well as discuss, sort of what people may see as the other end. You've got the young mom, and she's in her like 30s, early 30s, with 3 little kids, and not wanting to have another child, but her husband might want her to have another child. And like, she's not the one speaking in this monologue, but she's the one that's also taking the depression screening and realizing, like, I could be depressed, but is it circumstantial? The character Nancy, the older woman, says, is it circumstantial depression? Wait, or is it there's clinical depression and is it circumstantial? I should know the term, because there is a term about having to do with depression resulting from like conditions around you that may prompt you to be depressed. I mean, test the same way as someone who's clinically depressed, or that could turn into clinical depression, which is exactly what the younger character does say in the play. So I wrote it because of just frustrations I've had as a mother at different ages, like when my kids were little, and then when they were older, you know.
Gotcha.
And, yeah.
I just write about whatever I'm angry about right now.
The board.
It's easy. I have so many to pick from. I'm currently writing a full length on a woman who was drugged and raped. And and I've got it's a 3-hander, and the grandmother and the daughter of the woman who was drugged and raped. And they're a real tight bunch. They're funny. It's British, this one. It's based on true stories. Many.
Oh,
Sadly.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Just read the paper and get angry.
Just read the paper. That's it. That's the formula, Doc.
Yeah, works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my case also, I mean, it was definitely Me Too in the air. And so many women I knew, and of all ages, including very young women and very old women, talking about, oh yeah, I have my story of that. I have, some version of what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And but in this case, I also wanted to talk about the power and exuberance of 2 young women finding out, sharing, that when you share, oh, this is happening to me, is he hitting on you in exactly the same way? The humor and the power and the joy really that comes of that, of realizing that you don't have to be a victim at all, and you sure don't have to be one alone.
Yeah.
That our last production of short plays, I had wolves on, and I did send that to Deb. Unfortunately, she didn't select it, but it's about
right now
a film editor who is one of the producers she's worked with a long time. He tries to rape her, and what happens afterwards. Well, and it was on in our plays. It was done a year ago, February, here in Oxford. And do you know, by the end of that evening, 3 women, 2 I didn't know, came to tell me that they had been raped the same way.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful. Yeah. And Christine, I was thinking of Heather Booth. She's one of the founders of the Jane movement, and we have a Jane monologue in here too. And we might actually have an interview with another founder of that movement too. But Heather is also really active in politics in DC. And she's done a lot for Elizabeth Warren, and I did a Jane play, and Heather appeared and did a speech on my stage. But her thing is always that women feel isolated. We feel isolated, like we're suffering it alone. And the most powerful thing you can ever do is gather women. You just in your living room, just sit on the floor together. And it's exactly what Doc was saying. Like you sit there and one woman said, wait, that happened to me. Wait. And then suddenly you don't feel like you're crazy anymore. Like this is sort of a universal. And when we did Witches Vanish, we listed the names of 82 women, poof, that just disappeared. And it was it pulled up all these energies, and it's powerful to confront it, and it's overwhelming because it's so prevalent and so not talked about, So
yeah, but talking now.
Yes, specificity breeding universality. Like when you talk about these very specific characters going through very specific situations, then it's going to resonate universally. And so I feel like that's happening with these pieces, and I really appreciate it. So next question, what has your experience been regarding play development? And it leads into the final, have small companies like Venus been of service along the way? So just development and small companies versus larger companies. How have you gotten your plays out there, I guess?
You keep submitting and you have a leather skin, Every time I get a rejection, I say it's your loss, and I'll send out 2 more. Yeah, I probably told you how mine start. I usually do start with a 1-act, and then or a short, and then I work from there.
Yeah.
And I did say, I must say, Deb, it was wonderful seeing you doing God Don't Like Ugly. It was just, I thought it was probably one of the best plays I'd seen in a long time, and it was mine. Yeah, I thought it was really brilliant. You did a great job. Yeah, it was super. And I like the car.
Car became a fixture. Once I got it in the door, it was in other plays. It lived in the lobby. Everyone's got a Volkswagen Beetle story. Like one actor was there. I did a solo show for my friend who was raped and murdered, and met people in the lobby. And this really well-known DC actor was like, "I lost my virginity in the backseat of it." Like, I don't know what to do right now. Like, we might edit this. Yeah.
That's funny.
Everybody's got a Volkswagen. And then my friend, I was like, I'm getting, and my friend Bill Bird is like, you will get it in. I will be there. All you need is a 3/4 socket wrench. And you could take a whole Beetle apart with one wrench. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I used to play pranks on people in college. They'd like just take it all apart and put it in someone's room. So you'd wake up and there'd be a car next to your bed. Like, all right, I went down this track, but yes, love the car.
Well, my brother, whom I modeled the male in my monologue after, he's a lovely bloke. He once, with a friends of his, got an alligator out of the zoo in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and put it into the high school's principal's office.
That'll show him.
In the middle of the night.
Why would you do that during the day? That's
Yeah. He interesting human being. He loves Trump.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's scary. It's scary. We need to be looking at these issues because it's not right. We thought Hillary was going to be elected, and I was directing a play
Me too.
by Alana Valentine, who's also in this collection, and she's in Australia. And it's this play called Soft Revolution, and it was just two women, and the play's about a hijab. Like I'm directing a play, and the whole point of conflict is a piece of fabric, right? And so she's like, I'm going to bring Georgetown cupcakes when Hillary wins, and then Hillary didn't win, and my actors, just two, as a two-hander, and they were so devastated. One just had to leave for a week. She's like, I can't. And then there's text like, if we see anyone wearing a headscarf, we're going to light them on fire. And I felt so protective of my actors. And like, suddenly this play became so relevant, and it was just on the cover of the style section in the Washington Post. And like, it's just like, you don't know how essential this stuff is. But I think when you do the work, all of a sudden it appears and it sort of meets you at a crossroads or something.
Yeah.
I feel it, don't you think? Like we can kind of, it's so obvious to us, and it's like really hard to understand how people are blind to this stuff. It's terrifying.
It's scary.
It is. Well, thank you. I think those are all my questions. Do you have any questions? Does anybody else have any questions for anyone?
You want to write my next scene that's due on Sunday?
I'm still writing a book, Doc.
We can hang out, and we'll help each other. Christine and I will both have new scenes.
Me, it's nighttime. I have to work at night. And it's
Oh, it's lovely to see you.
Thank you.
Billy and Amy, both.
yeah, this was wonderful. Thank you so much.
And thank you for the anthology.
Yeah.
Read every piece.
Yeah.
I tell you that Venus wouldn't exist without living playwrights writing powerful female characters. So thank you. Thank you for showing up and doing the work. I wouldn't be able to do my job if you didn't do your job. And the anthologies just became kind of obvious because I'm writing, my memoir, The History of Venus. And I'm like, there is no history without the living playwright. So these two go hand in hand. So thank you. It's, a mutual admiration society. Sorry,
Right.
Space Doc. I can't produce your stuff right now, but I'm publishing.
Love to Alan.
Absolutely. Love back to everyone.
Okay.
Soon.
Nice meeting you all. Take
Thank you.
care.
Nice meeting everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Bye.
Bye-bye.